I think life is about micro revolutions or resolutions, whichever way you want to look at it. Just kind of set yourself one every day. So life is a series of steps, and sometimes you'll take a step, and sometimes you'll take a crawl, and sometimes you'll run. But you know, it's a journey. It's just about any work that you do, if you love it, you will do a great job.
That's perfect advice. If you love it, you'll do a great job no matter what.
Hi, I'm Jayne Worthington. I'm Group CEO of the Progress Group, and we employ 250 people, and this is my Duvet flip.
What does it mean to have a job you love?
I think you need to know what lights your fire. I look back through my career and it hasn't been about feeding my family totally, it's been about feeding my soul.
What is your invisible success?
I love people. I absolutely find people fascinating, and nothing makes me happier than seeing somebody succeed.
Wow, you're passing it on, aren't you?
What's better though? What is better?
Final question. Are you ready for it?
Go on.
What keeps getting you turning up and flipping the duvet? Jayne, welcome to my duvet flip. How are we?
I'm good, thank you.
And I'm on a healthy eat at the moment. I'm eating healthy. And you know, I feel so good.
Okay.
And what's your New Year's resolutions? What's something that you've said this year I'm going to do? Whether it's something to do with the mission at the Progress Group, or whether it's something personal, or whether it's just buying a Lego set. What is the plan?
Well, definitely buying a Lego set should be on the list, shouldn't it? Do you know what? I don't do New Year's resolutions because I think it's really easy to kind of get caught up in that whole kind of like, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to join a gym and I'm going to kind of go every day this week. If you don't do it and then you don't do it and you get demotivated and then it's a whole kind of spiral down. So I think life is about micro revolutions or resolutions, whichever way you want to look at it. Just kind of set yourself one every day. So today I was going to get up and make Sarah smile because I'm coming here to do this with you. So Sarah's my marketing and comms director. She's amazing. So yeah, a little thing every day that I think is achievable.
That's why Sarah's smiling so much today.
I've achieved. You see?
There you go.
I feel good.
Yeah. Look, we're going to go into career in a minute, but just on that part, setting goals, committing to something, whether it's micro, whether it's a big goal, what is your advice to the next generation, to anyone who's tuning in, to actually make that tangible? So what's your advice to me? I'm on, obviously, you've already told me off a little bit behind the scenes, but I'm on this journey. Yeah. There's going to be other people who have got dreams, and whether it's they want to get a job or they want to go into an apprenticeship or they want to do something. What is your advice to actually achieving that goal?
So I think for me, it's about understand why you want to do it, what are you getting out of it, you know, and understand the motivation. And then just your first thing, don't make it too big. You know, life is a series of steps, and sometimes you'll take a step, and sometimes you'll take a crawl, and sometimes you'll run. But, you know, it's a journey. So just make the first thing. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. I can't remember who said that, some famous philosopher, but it's very true. But make that first step achievable, because if you can't achieve the first step, you won't take the second.
So understand the why, make it small, take the first step. Yeah. There you go. That is just perfect advice, because I think you're totally right. We all want this kind of big goal, and a lot of people, and especially with the data that we have on our young community, they don't know how to start, where to start, or who to, and they don't know how to ask for advice. Was there a time in your career that there was something, a blocker or a barrier in front of you, that you just stood back and said, I don't know what to do here? And how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, mine was probably quite extreme in a sense. So I was 24, I was living in South Wales. I'm from Birmingham originally, so I kind of moved away from my home and my family. I was a youth work manager, doing kind of like community arts and youth work, but I was a manager. And 1994 in South Wales, the mines had shut, a lot of poverty, lots of kind of young people, very, very kind of like on the edge. I think, you know, drugs were prevalent. They needed help, they needed money, they needed opportunities, and there was none. You know, where did they go? So kind of working with young people through that, and I had a kind of year of it really where disclosure of sexual abuse within families. We had one young man who committed suicide, and supporting his family through that. He had a young baby that he left behind. And then one day I was sat in the kind of like in the YMCA, which is where the office was, And the group of lads I worked with brought a young girl in. She was 16. And they said, we need you to help this young woman. And I was kind of like, yeah, of course, no worries. Kind of grab a cup of tea, coffee, as you do. And it turned out she'd got an abusive boyfriend. She wanted to leave him. She didn't know what to do. And she'd got a young baby. And she said to me, he's threatened to hurt the baby. And very often with women, with kind of or people in that situation, they act for their children, they don't act for themselves. So kind of, there's a process you go through. You have to police, kind of solicitors, injunctions, restraining orders, etc. So we got to the point where we went to the solicitor and she said, will you come with me? Because she didn't have anybody. And I said, of course I would. Asked for a female solicitor. I got one thinking that they would be very sympathetic, empathetic. And we got there and this woman basically sat down and belittled this young woman and said, you've not reported it, I can't do anything for you. You've gone to hospital and said you've fallen down the stairs, you've kind of covered it up, you've not reported it to the police, I can't do anything for you. She was in tears, she was a kid, she was a young girl. And she said, you've got no proof. And this young woman stood up and she kind of dropped her jeans and she'd got cigarette burns all down her legs. So I sent her out into the waiting room and tore a strip off the solicitor and we got the restraining order and I got the young girl in a refuge with the baby and kind of everything else. I went home, I drank 3/4 of a bottle of Jack Daniels. I'm not recommending that for anybody. And just thought, I can't do this. I can't do it. And that was probably the biggest challenge of my career to date because you don't have family around you, you don't have a support system, you're dealing with big stuff, life and death stuff. And people don't see this. Youth workers do an amazing job, teachers do an amazing job. They deal with this stuff every day. And a friend said to me, let's go on holiday. So I went to Ibiza, had a great time for 2 weeks, came back and said to my boss, I'm going to give my notice in, I'm going to go and work over there. And they said, take a sabbatical, go over for the summer, we really want you to come back. So I did that, kind of went out there to decompress, and I ended up over there for 2 years, came back, worked my notice, and then went back again. But at that point in time, I just needed to remove myself from this situation for my own kind of mental health, because it's a little bit like what they say to you on an airplane, put on your oxygen mask first before you can help anybody else. And I knew if I didn't do that, I'd just be gone to the sector and I couldn't actually help anybody else in the
Thanks
process.
for sharing that, Jayne. Thanks for sharing that, because that's like, you've opened so many questions for me. Which,
probably a bad thing, that, isn't it, really?
No, it's a good... Look, I think there's loads of people, like... You use the word mental health. We all have mental health.
Yeah.
And it affects people in different ways. And anyone who's tuning in, there is a link at the bottom of the description that they can go and get the support that they need. I want to focus on a few bits. We'll go the positive bit second. Firstly, if someone is feeling that they're being belittled in the workplace, because that young woman... Yeah. And yourself were sitting in front of that lawyer.
That professional, yeah.
That professional, and was being belittled she felt she was being belittled, and by the sounds of it, she was.
Yeah, she was.
Times 10, right?
Absolutely.
What is the right approach? Obviously, that young girl just pulled down her trousers.
She felt she had nowhere else to go, and what a situation to find yourself in at that age, yeah.
What's your advice to others who feel like they're being belittled, whether it's in education, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's at the bus stop? What is your advice to how to handle that situation? What would you say?
I think it's really difficult because every situation is different, and kind of the reason for the person who's kind of being the bully or the belittler or whatever that negative behaviour is, there will be they will have a reason behind that you can't see, and it will be their own insecurity in some way. So I think first of all, recognise that it's not going to be you, it is going to be them. That whole kind of it's not me, it's you, it's them. It definitely is them, but that doesn't help you at that moment in time when you're feeling so small. And I think the first thing to do, if you can, is to seek support from somebody else, because some things are really difficult to handle alone. And if you can find a friend or a family member or a professional, if you don't have that support network, there are really great support networks out there for people of all ages. Just seek it and find it. You talked about a link on your website. There are many websites that can, so just Google support for X and you will find it if you can't find that within your own network. But really importantly, just remember that it will not be you. You are not creating, you are not causing this behaviour. That person has to take responsibility for their own behaviour. You take responsibility for making yourself feel better and feel good. And there will be a series of kind of actions that you can take on the back of that support, whether it's removing yourself from a situation, whether it's actually in a workplace situation, finding the right support network within that workplace, because that behaviour should never ever be tolerated. And there will be a process that you can go through within a workplace. But you have to feel quite brave to do that, and that's why I would say always try and seek support, because that courage is really hard to find on your own sometimes.
I think that's brilliant advice. Find the courage by seeking the support from someone, right? And if it is happening in a workplace, find that support network and then basically ask loads of questions. What could I do? Who's the right person to speak to? How do I handle this in a meaningful way?
Absolutely.
Youth worker.
Yeah, many years ago now.
I love a youth worker. When I used to, I don't anymore, but when I used to go to a nightclub and I couldn't, and a young lady would come up to me and she would be like, what do you do? And I couldn't explain that I was the CEO of this and that and stuff. So I just said youth worker. It's the easiest, you know what? I'm just a youth worker. Yeah. But it's not just a youth worker, because youth workers play such a critical role in a young person's life. If I wanted to become a youth worker, what would be my kind of route in? How would I do that? And I know, obviously, you as a youth worker, not that long ago. many years ago. But, like, what is the process to become a youth worker, and how do you get involved with youth work?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I fell into it almost because I was born in Birmingham. My first home was on the 17th floor of a tower block. I grew up on a kind of council estate. I think it's a song by The Who that says I was born with a plastic spoon in my mouth. That was me, So yeah, very working class family. My nan cleaned buses. My mum was a single parent. She had me at 18. It was kind of tough. So one interesting fact about me is I am an absolute Lego freak. I love Lego for many, many reasons. I have the Taj Mahal, the large set, the worst dusted ornament ever, and I'm desperate for the Titanic set. And then we had a community arts organisation that worked on our council estate. And kind of actually that's how I got switched onto the media, which is kind of another story. But my mum started working with them as well and started volunteering. So she kind of then decided when she was 30 to retrain as a community worker. So kind of I'd experienced her journey with her. I'd seen the kind of like community and youth work that was done and what a difference it made to me. So there's a guy called Harry Henderson, I remember him to this day. It's not all about formal education, sometimes informal education, who handed me a camera and an Olympus trip, which you guys won't know what that is because it's like so long ago.
Is it one of those Mr. Bean ones?
Yeah, probably actually. Yeah, no, but it was David Bailey used to advertise them, if you know who David Bailey is. But it was an expensive piece of kit, and I'm a scrote from a council estate. It's like, go, take pictures. But he talked to me about the pictures that I'd taken, the pictures that were in the media, and that man kind of like, he taught me how to think and how to know that my thoughts and opinions were valued, had value, that kind of, I wasn't nothing. I meant something, what I thought meant something. So I kind of got that in the background, but that's what led me into the media. As I say, I trained for about 6 years, went through college, didn't do degrees in that stuff back then. You had to do a HND, which were one of the best qualifications out there, I still think.
And what's that equivalent to these days?
So that would be like a foundation degree.
Cool.
kind of like that, then went for this internship at the BBC, and you know, this was my dream. This was kind of like Pebble Mill.
It's the BBC.
It's the BBC, darling, baby. BBC, baby. Oh, it's hideous. Absolutely hideous. So 1980s, again, long time ago, misogynistic, you know, to climb your way up the ladder, you put knives into other people's back. It was just everything that I didn't want to be. And have you seen Rivals that they've remade on, it's a Gilly Cooper novel, it's on Disney Plus at the moment.
I'll have to look at it.
All right, have a look at it. It's all kind of like around this TV franchise kind of thing, and some of the behaviours, they were based, in fact, in the 80s. So I trained for something for 6 years, and I was like, oh God, what do I do now? So I ended up just kind of like ditching all the media stuff and looking. We had papers back then, newspapers, vacancies, and there was a job at an unemployed group. So that I applied for that. I was lucky enough to get it, and then did some training to be a youth worker. Volunteered as a youth worker. Did a part-time job as a youth worker whilst I was doing the unemployed stuff, and then was really lucky to get a full-time job down in South Wales. But I would say anybody looking to get into it there's loads of volunteering opportunities. Youth work is really badly funded now, severely underfunded. So anything you can bring to the party will be really valued by any good youth work organisation. And then from there, you'll gain some experience. There's obviously accredited courses that you can do right up to degree, master's level. But there's no beating getting out there and working with the young people themselves. Because learn to know if you're going to love it. Don't do this stuff if you don't love it. It's too hard.
What makes a good youth worker?
I don't think there's a cookie cutter person, because it's just about any work that you do. If you love it, you will do a great job. I think Steve Jobs said that way back when, you know, but to do a great job, you need to love what you do, and it's really true. And if you love it and you think you're making a difference, and that's what drives me, you will do a great job.
That's perfect advice. If you love it, you'll do a great job no matter what. And if you love it and you go into that job and you're not quite good at it, you'll become good, right? Because you want to improve.
Yeah, and you see other people, you know, people learn from people, don't they? You know, I'll pick up stuff from Jack today, I'll go home, or go back to that place and think, Jack did that, I'm going to copy that. Because nothing's new in this world.
Nothing.
You know, so you pinch a bit of that, you pinch a bit of that, and you get better, you improve, you look at where you're not so good at doing something, you kind of own that, and on you go to the next. But youth work, teaching, that led me into teaching, training, you know, kind of like working on Ibiza for a couple of years was a lot of youth work, I could tell you about.
I want to talk about Ibiza, and I want to talk about your teaching, but I just want to roll back a bit.
Go on.
So you grew up in a council estate, 17th floor. Yeah,
started off at the 17th floor, and then we got moved to somewhere they called it the concrete jungle.
Jungle. So is that a concrete building with some flats and with some trees around it?
So there were no trees, no green, no trees. A railway line at the back. You could see the West Bromwich Albion training ground from my bedroom window. Prefabricated concrete structures.
Did you know you was growing up in a council estate when you was younger, or did you just feel this is life?
I loved my upbringing. Okay, it was kind of we had nothing, but we had everything. So I've got a great family. I've got 2 aunts, a grandma who's no longer with us, and my mum. So very matriarchal. It's a bit like growing up. Think cross between the Witches of Eastwick and kind of Peaky Blinders, and you've got somewhere close to kind of my family. So really, really lucky. But second-hand clothes, second-hand bikes, you know. But on the estate, a lot of people were out of work. It was the 80s. It was tough in the 80s. I mean, it really was. But the dads that weren't working were out playing football with the kids. They'd set up cricket matches every night. You know, I used to be out there playing Kirby, if that's a phrase you know, with other kids.
No, it's not what I know. What is Kirby?
Right, so Kirby is when you've got basically either side of a street and a football.
Oh yes, Kirby, where you have to hit it.
You have to hit the ball, hit the curb and it comes back to you. So because there weren't a lot of cars around, nobody had money for cars. So and it was great, but I had other friends who lived in other areas through school, obviously, who would do sports clubs. They would go on holiday with their parents. So there were things that I saw that I didn't have, and I knew I didn't have them. Did I feel the lack of them? Yeah, a bit. But what I had, I wouldn't swap for the world. If somebody said to me now, £7 million, you can go back and change your childhood to one of privilege, I'd say no.
You wouldn't have to do Kirby, would you?
I wouldn't.
Did you ever have to reinvent yourself when you went into the workplace in terms of coming from a council estate? I came from a council estate.
Yeah.
And not that, because when you're young, you're just like, okay, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And you go into an organisation and everyone's like well-spoken and they've all got degrees. I don't have a degree myself. And you're just like, okay, I have to fit in rather than stand out. Like, did you have imposter syndrome? Because I did.
Yeah.
And I always used to think, when are they going to figure me out?
Yeah, when am I going to get exposed? I think I've always had imposter syndrome, and I think as a woman, actually, as a female, you sometimes feel that a lot in different ways, probably. I've never been a young man, so I can't, but I know as a kind of female, I felt it, and I've not got much of an accent. It does come out occasionally now, but that's gone not because I've tried to, but because I've lived in South Wales and I've lived in Ibiza and I've lived up in kind of Merseyside, Cheshire, and so the Birmingham has kind of gone away unless I'm angry or I'm tired or I'm talking to my mum, and then
you haven't had your morning cup of tea.
That one. So yeah, you know, I have felt it, and I remember saying to one of my bosses, and we were sat around a kind of a meeting table. I was business development director at the time, and he was from Reading, it's quite posh. And actually that guy is my best friend now, best mate. But I said to him, I'm one of two people with a regional accent around this table, and I don't feel comfortable. And I felt that for a while, and actually I did something called neuro-linguistic programming. I don't know if you've ever come across this.
Tell me what this is.
So it's an amazing kind of set of things that helps you kind of retrain your brain and reframe and stuff, but there's a technique called anchoring. So I was lucky enough to kind of like have this kind of coach through work, and I said to her, I feel like I can't talk in these meetings because... And she was like, all right, okay, we need to work on that. So very, very briefly, she said to me, how do you sit when you're feeling most confident? When you're with your mates in a cafe or a pub or something, how do you sit when you're kind of like you're talking? And so she said, I want you to sit like that now. So I did, and I do this actually. And she said, right, next time you're in a meeting, this was a lot longer than this, but to cut it down, next time you're in a meeting and you're feeling very underconfident or you've got imposter syndrome, I want you to sit how you would sit when you're talking to your mates in a pub, physically make the effort to sit like that. I want you to take a breath, think about what you want to say, and then I want you to deliver it. But I want you to feel that sense of confidence. You're talking to Ali in the pub, you know what you're saying, you know what you're talking about, but do that movement first. And that's about anchoring your kind of how you feel to the physicality of what you're doing, and it really does work. So there are techniques out there that can help that.
So sit like you are with round your friends.
Yeah, just any position where you feel that you are feeling very confident and relaxed.
And when you started doing that because one, it's great doing it in role play, right?
Yeah.
Because it's in a safe space.
Did it work?
Yeah, did it work? And then when you took it into the real place, was the first bit a bit like, okay, I'm gonna do this now. I'm gonna sit like how I am.
So the first time I did it, Sarah will probably tell you who sat over there, but I'm the person that I went for counselling once after my dad died, and my counsellor said, can't work with you, I have to go and talk to my supervisor, because I'm really bad at kind of pretending. Don't do pretending well. So I was a bit sceptical, but I thought, right, I'm going to give this a go because I need to for me. And I was like, yeah, that very conscious, I'm going to do it. And then kind of, I did feel a bit better. It wasn't like thunderclap, but I did feel a bit better. I thought, I'm going to try that again. The more you do it, the more it kind of kicks in, and then it just becomes something that you do. And my team will tell you that we'll still sometimes do that in meetings. They will see me do it. It's kind of like, and I've told that story to them because I think it's important that people understand that you don't come out fully formed. You don't have all the answers. Sometimes you do feel like that tiny child inside that just kind of like, what do I know? And I probably used it most. I worked for an organisation called the Northwest Development Agency, and my role was national and regional skills and employment policy. So part of that, I was actually had a secondment to a government department, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was called the Department for Innovation, Universities and Skills. So I took on a kind of policy brief for leadership and management. And it was around the time just before the financial crisis happened. So Gordon Brown was in power and David Lammy was skills minister. He was kind of superseded by Tony Young. And I used it most then because I went into, you have to advise ministers, you have to write speeches for ministers, you have to help them make the arguments that they're making. And the first time I walked into the House of Commons and sat in a meeting room with a minister to advise him with people that he was meeting and be part of his voice, I thought, oh my God, I am little Jayne Hickman, which is my maiden name, from a council estate in Birmingham. What on WTF am I doing here? You know, so all this.
So the imposter syndrome came back.
Yeah, massively. What do I know? Da 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 da. And I thought, you've got to shake this off because, you know.
Did you start saying you're at the pub?
I did my thing, and as soon as you get into it, then you find your flow again, don't you? As soon as you kind of like you open your mouth and you say something that's cogent, you kind of think, yeah, okay, I'm kind of in it, and I'm responding, and I'm finding you fascinating because people are fascinating. We talked about this earlier, but yeah, I needed that technique then. So yeah, a few techniques now and then help.
I want to talk a little bit about. We get up, it's raining outside, sometimes it's snowing,
depending where
you are. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're stressed, and everything in between. And in our world, there's loads of different things happening. But they're important to that individual who's waking up.
Absolutely.
And then there's this thing called work. And this work thing is in the middle, and you get up, and you have a shower, you brush your teeth, you get dressed, and then you either obviously work from home or you go into the office, wherever you're working. What's the meaning of work? And how do you get through a life of work?
Mm-hmm.
That feeds the soul.
That feeds the soul. So I think for me that you kind of hit the nail on the head really. So you can either see work as an enabler, right, okay, and you can work your socks off and work really hard and earn money for a 2-week holiday every year, and that's what you look forward to, or kind of like split. And I know a lot of people like that. For me, you can have it all in one sense because you can do a job that you love, and when you do a job that you love, it feeds your soul. For me, it's about making a difference. So everything we do within the Progress Group, everything I've done throughout my working life, it's been about supporting other people to realise life chances, opportunities, be their best them that they can be. And I love doing that. So yeah, there are some days where I'd kind of like prefer to have 5 minutes more in bed, but actually the kind of the people I work with, the people I work for, the people that we serve within the Progress Group and other companies I've worked for, that's why I get out of bed every morning. And that means work isn't really work all the time. Sometimes it is, because it's unrealistic to think that every day is going to be a red letter day. But yeah, there is a way to have both. There's a way to kind of have a great career, earn good money, deliver great social purpose within the world. And at the core of that, you're probably the happiest that you're going to be.
And do you have to compromise anything in the process?
I don't think so, no.
You see all these sometimes I go down Pinterest and I see all these quotes and...
You've got far too much time on your hands.
I know. Well, you do a job you love, right? And it's all conflicting. One says do this, one says fast, one says don't fast, one says don't exercise, one says exercise, one says just don't do anything. It can all be overwhelming.
Yeah.
What does it mean to actually have a job you love? And how do you have a job you love where you're not compromising?
So I think you need to know, don't you, what lights your fire, you know, what really kind of gives you a sense of kind of purpose and well-being and striding through the world. So kind of nobody goes to work to do a bad job. Nobody does that, you know. Nobody gets up in the morning and goes, yeah, my ambition today is to do a really poor job. But they may get to work and think, I really don't like what I'm doing. I don't like who I'm working with, and actually I don't like the end result that I'm delivering. So I'm not going to give my best, I'm not going to give my all. If you could kind of look within yourself, and you will know what you enjoy doing, you will know kind of what really, does light your fire, then there will be a a career, a job, something to do within that space that will make you feel really great about what you're delivering on a day-to-day basis. And there will be a career path for you to get to that. And your gut will tell you that. There will be information. You said information overload. It comes at you from everywhere, doesn't it? You know, there's kind of like, there's Insta, there's all the influencers, there's kind of everybody that wants to sell you something, you know, that everything is out there. But if you start from what makes you happy, what you think will make you happy, find the information that sits around that, and then use your own gut and your own intellect and those people around you that can offer advice and opinions. And then I think you sit and you synthesise, don't you? You know, and we talk about gut feel and how do you define gut feel? It's really difficult, isn't it? But actually, if you think back to a moment that made you feel really good about what you'd achieved in the workplace, volunteering on a personal level, that will give you some indication of where that advice maybe then starts to lead you and what you can discard, which is probably 80% of it. Keep the 20, shake it all about, through the sieve of your emotions, through the sieve of your intellect. I'm going to ask Jack, because I trust Jack. I think he's got a great opinion on things. And then that starts to kind of work out the next step on your journey.
And do you think that you can love a job that you hate? And what I mean by that is my brother, he got scouted for West Ham at 7 years old.
Yeah.
Then he got introduced to Greggs at 11.
Okay.
And he wasn't consistent, and he used to have a sausage roll every morning. Obviously, with that, over a compound effect, you get a bit of a belly. Mm-hmm. So he was never going to become a semi-pro professional footballer, yeah, which then he had to turn into becoming an electrician. Mm-hmm. But he loves football, yeah, and he wanted a career in football. So where is the balance between being realistic? Let me give another example. An influencer. I want to be an influencer. Well, you can't really sing or dance on TikTok, so you're not really going to do it.
I might be able to, Jack. You never know.
You can learn, but when is it from waiting for the dream job, or just getting in and learning and seeing where it takes you?
Yeah, I mean, I think your brother, that experience is really interesting, because I think, you know, there's a choice there between kind of earning money or doing what I love, and kind of actually, as part of the process for coming to the interview, you know, I started to kind of think about my career path, my motivations, what I'd done, why I'd done it. And I said to Sarah, who I work with in the team, I thought, because I came from a council estate, it was all about earning money, giving my kids stuff I didn't have, giving myself stuff I didn't have when I was growing up. And that was my motivation. I look back through my career, and it hasn't been about feeding my family totally. It's been about feeding my soul as well. And I think feeding your soul, feeling your purpose is really, really important. Now, your brother's gone to be an electrician. He'll earn a load of money doing that. I'm sure he's very successful. You know, there's a shortage of those careers. But if being a spark doesn't turn him on, then actually he could volunteer as a coach for a local football kind of club with young kids, with other people. He could have trained to be a ref. He could have gone on to do other coaching. He could have become a scout himself. There are many, many jobs that sit around that. And in most careers, there's only the top X% that will ever be that person. So even if he hadn't discovered Greggs, you know, the chances of being a Premier League footballer are very, very slim. You get injured, you know, you're not good enough. But the stuff around that you can still be part of that world. You can still be part of the world, and I love that. So he should have went for a ref. He liked the sausage rolls more than football. But you're totally right. Look, if you can't be the footballer, then can you be the ref? Can you be the football manager? Yeah, be a physiotherapist. Yes, whatever that is within that organisation. So you don't actually have to. It's not the end of the road, is it, to be in that world? Is what I'm hearing clear. And I know many people that actually find more satisfaction through that route as well. You know, I thought I wanted to be the superstar. Actually, I don't. I'm getting far more out of what I do, because it is feeding my soul. But actually, I've got longevity in that job as well, and if I want to, I can also kind of like get progression, promotion, whatever. So whereas when you're the superstar, the kind of only ways down, isn't it? So not always all it's cracked up to be that
It isn't it? Have you ever been in a job that has not fed your soul?
I have been in jobs where I have loved it at the start, but it's come to a natural end, whether that's through kind of people I've worked with, or I feel like I can't actually give any more and make any difference to that organisation. So yeah, I've definitely been in.
When do you know when there's no more to give and to stop? Because how do you know it's actually the end and it's not just a bad week?
I know with me, one of my biggest overarching kind of themes through the workplace is anybody I work with, I want them to enjoy themselves. So, you know, I'm in a leadership position now. I've been for a number of years, but even when I was a colleague, you know, the only person you should compete with in the workplace is yourself. Everybody else, be a kind co-worker, because, you know, you will be in that position, and if we all did that, actually the world would be a much better place, in my opinion. But compete with yourself. That's important, but that's the only person you should compete with. And when I've got to the point where actually I don't feel like I'm enriching other people's lives, either through the service we deliver or my co-workers, it's time for me to move on, because that makes me sad, and I don't want to be sad. I want to be happy in what I do. So that's my trigger. Other people will have different triggers.
There's no time to be sad, right?
No.
Are you saying life is big, time is short?
Life is big, time is short. You will be sad. Recognise it, and recognise that you can do something about it. And back to the mental health thing, there are other people that will help. I'm really lucky. I've got a good support network that I can reach out to as well. So, yeah. One interesting fact about the Progress Group is that in our mission to change lives through the power of education and training, we work with over 100,000 people a year and deliver over 35 million. Yes, that's 35 million worth of social value.
How did life change for you when you became a CEO?
Why did I want to be a CEO? It's really interesting, isn't it? I wanted to be a CEO. I am the best number 2 in the world. Right, okay, I'm going to be confident about this. So, because I don't like being in front of a camera, this is not my natural space. I don't like standing on stages and being the big I am. It's not really me. But I'm the best number 2 in the world because I'm a great strategist. I love working with people. I want people to be happy in the workplace. So, you know, that whole kind of productivity, motivation stuff, I'm really great at that. But even number 1s don't listen to their number 2s sometimes. So I wanted.
So you don't listen to yourself?
Well, I do listen to my people most of the time, but I wanted to be in a position where I could make the decisions and call the shots, because the work that we do in education and training, the life chances and opportunities that we give to the people we work with, for me, it's one of the most important things in my life, alongside my family and my kids and everything. And because I've lived that life, that lived experience, I think I know what can and will make a difference. So yeah, put my money where my mouth is, and took the step. And I think the difficulty when you're CEO, it can be very lonely. Okay, so it does rest on your head, you know, on your shoulders. When it hits the fan, you're the person that everybody looks to, whether it's big or small. If they are having a bad day, you know, they need somebody to come and talk to. So it can be very lonely and it can be very overwhelming. And I think the way that I have tried to kind of like mitigate that is we run quite an open, transparent, authentic organisation. So in the Progress Group, you find very real people. Back to an earlier point you made, do people feel like they have to change to fit in? I hope not. And certainly within the leadership team, you know, I've got an incredible group of people that I work with. And if I am having a lonely or a bad day, I will say that to them. And be very open about it, and I'm incredibly lucky because they respond to me as hopefully I respond to them. But that's the biggest change from being part of the crowd to becoming a CEO, because it all rests here. You've got 250 plus people to pay. You've got to make a social difference to all of those individuals, whether it's young people within our alternative education schools, whether it's people that are getting careers advice and guidance, whether it's adults going back to retrain, or whether it's people working in the social care sector that we're trying to get a better life for. You know, we need to deliver all of that stuff.
While dealing with the life challenges of the world, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a pandemic, whether it's
Always
policy or anything in between.
Always fun.
Always fun.
One interesting fact about our industry isn't really an interesting fact about our industry as such, but it's really important to what we do, and that it's over 22% of people in the UK actually live in poverty, with over half of those being children. And it is well known through research that actually children that come from a deprived and disadvantaged background do significantly worse within education. And through doing significantly worse in education, their life chances are actually severely impacted. So their chances, choices and opportunities get far less. Within the Progress Group, we aim to change that through the work that we do.
What is your advice, because this also goes live on LinkedIn, up on LinkedIn to over 100,000 B2B connections.
That's a bit scary.
Yeah. What is your advice to new time CEOs, first-time CEOs, who's just stepping into the role? They're in the role, they've just got this fancy title, and now they are leading the organisation.
Okay, life, work is all about people. Okay, so for me, my motivating factor is making sure that the people, my team, and by team I mean the 250 plus people that I work with, are as happy as they can possibly be, that I'm giving them the best that they can possibly give. You know, every business, they have barriers around money, affordability, commerciality, but whatever we can do to make life better for the people that work within the Progress Group is what we strive to do, and we do that for two reasons. One is because they deserve it, they work really hard, and two, because they feel happy and they feel motivated, and when they feel happy and motivated, they give our customers a better service, our customers have a better experience, they get what they deserve, and it's a kind of a self-fulfilling virtuous circle that you start to create. So I would always start from the people, start from your people. They are your biggest asset. The more financially motivated will say they're the biggest cost, and they are, but they are your biggest asset. Great people are kind of, yeah. Spend time with them, look at the package you offer them. I mean, Sarah said I couldn't talk about the employee value proposition, but, you know, if this is LinkedIn, EVP is a big thing that's there. Make sure that you are building a workplace that you would want to work in, really. And the second piece of advice I would give to any new CEO is, if you haven't got them when you take that job, employ people who are smarter than you and let them help you shine. And that's the best investment you will ever make.
Because you see it time and time again, right? You get people that just build cardboard cutouts of their self, or no one who will challenge or will be able to. It's a known psychological comfort thing, isn't it? That you bring someone in who is smarter at something than you, that you need in the organisation, and let them thrive at it.
Absolutely, yeah. Some CEOs, I think when you're new, and I have experienced this, you kind of think you have to have all the answers. Because I'm paid the big bucks and I've got the top job, and if I haven't, what are the board going to say, or what's X going to say? And actually, as you relax and you mature a little bit, you realise that nobody has all the answers. You know, so you need those smart people. If you try and be the smartest person in the room all the time, you're not going to last that long.
Get out of the room.
Yeah. So
I use this saying, go from having all the answers to all the questions in everything you do.
Absolutely. Well, that's a very wise
Because
thing.
then you can just learn. Because a lot of it's just down to communication, right? It's the beach ball. There's a beach ball on the table. You're seeing the blue, I'm seeing the red. I'm arguing with you, you're arguing with me. You're saying I can see blue, I'm saying I can see red, and actually it's red and blue. And we're both not focusing on the middle bit, which is the white, which is the important bit.
Why is always important. Yeah. If you don't know your why, then
what's the point? The Progress Group.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the Progress Group and all the fantastic impact you make.
So, Progress Group is a group of businesses that kind of work across education and training. So we span from age 11 up to kind of probably 65, and the kind of businesses within the group are at kind of, they range from advice and guidance, so careers advice and guidance that we deliver within schools, which is Progress Careers. We have Progress Schools, which is probably I have a bit of a soft spot for. So we have 13 alternative education schools, which are for children that have been excluded, either temporarily or permanently, from mainstream schools. So these are kids that have been failed time and time and time.
So there's 13 schools that operate under the group that help those who have been failed.
Yeah, yeah. Which you can see I've got a soft spot.
Me too.
For,
the table's rocking.
Yeah, Jayne. So, you know, and I'm gonna just major on that one if I can a minute, because they are bright kids. You know, these bright buttons that just need a bit of time, somebody to see them for who they are, somebody to help them, and somebody to care. You know, in COVID actually, we kept going because we're the type of kind of schools that we were, but some children could not come into school because of, obviously they may have had relatives or themselves being kind of a little bit vulnerable too. So our staff would go around delivering food parcels to them, and after the pandemic had kind of like lockdown had finished, we actually had parents come in and say that was the only thing they had to eat that day, you know, and it breaks your heart. It just breaks your heart. But that just goes to show what our schools can do. It's not just about learning. It's not just about classrooms. It's about the whole person. It's about the family. It's about, that springboard to something else. And your kind of view about, can you see it? Can you touch it? Can you feel it? To be it, you have to see it. And it's a little bit of that. So I love Progress.
Is that about 200 students?
I'd have to work it out. We have about 35 to 50 students in each school, because we keep them small deliberately, because they very often come from big schools where they've been lost. Yes, it's that. I love Progress Schools. And then we've got Complete Skill Solutions that works with adults who are very often furthest away from the labour market. Maybe people that are kind of what the policy word is underemployed, but just hitting that ceiling and don't know what to do to kind of get the next step, and they need a little bit of training. But very often it's people who are so far away from the labour market through ill health, or they've been caring for a parent and want to get back in, or they've had a baby and they've lost their confidence, or so it's kind of helping people get back in and kind of sustain up and through. And then the last one, which is a merger of 3 businesses that we bought, is called Flourish, which is about really changing the paradigm in the health and social care sector, because the people that work in that sector are extraordinary people. Although I often say there's no such thing as extraordinary people, there's only ordinary people that do extraordinary things, and the people that work in that sector do extraordinary things, like teachers, on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
So, so that's all very exciting, but it's all about people.
It's all about people. And how do you, not jump, but put your mindset from one, because one minute you're going in to talk about the schools that you run. Yeah. Next minute is about adult and education. And then obviously social, how do you kind of focus your mind to be, because it's easy when you've got lots going on. Yeah. What's your tip to people to focus in?
So I will focus back to our purpose. So our purpose is about changing lives through the power of education and training. It's about giving those opportunities, those life chances, that self-belief. That doesn't change whether you're delivering careers advice and guidance to helping somebody in the social care sector. It is that it distills down to that. Where I'm lucky is that I have experts that know their own sectors that they're working in. So each MD of each company will know that sector inside out. I have more insights into some than others because I've had lived experience or career experience within that. But everything comes back to the purpose. Is what we're doing changing the lives of our customers for the better? And if it's not, why are we doing it? Are our staff happy delivering that? Do they feel it? Do they feel that sense of purpose? If they don't, why aren't they? And what can we do to change it? Have we made a bit of money this year? Fantastic. Where can we invest that to make life better for our staff and our customers? So it all comes back to that kind of purpose.
Purpose piece.
Yeah.
We've only got time for 2 more questions.
I'll try and talk quickly.
No, you go as long as you want. Your invisible success. You've got a fantastic career. I've done my Googling, and you've got a fantastic career. Your LinkedIn profile is just like the growth and on your career and how you speak here, and you're kind of very level-headed and got high emotional intelligence, which some leaders lack. What do you think has been your real invisible success that's not on a CV, that's not on a written bio, or you can't find online? What do you think has really helped you become a truly good human? This is me saying this, a truly good human, but also a leader of an organisation.
What's helped to drive
what is your invisible success? What is it? Some people are really good. We had one individual on who said his invisible success was PowerPoint slides.
Okay.
Because that's what got him to the next level, which got him into the rooms, which then got him to understand how leaders work to then become a CEO. For you, what do you think is your invisible success? What's your kind of...
I love people. I absolutely find people fascinating, and nothing makes me happier than seeing somebody succeed in something they've kind of set out to do. And back to the community association that I talked about when I was growing up, and Harry, that gave me that kind of little kernel, that little golden nugget of self-belief, and that what I thought mattered, could matter, did matter, voice it, you know. If nobody listens, don't worry about it. It does still matter. And being able to take that and pass a little bit of that on to other people, and actually some of the women that I work with in particular. So I've been a woman growing up through this, and you know, people talk about a glass ceiling a lot, and that still exists, but there's something called the broken rung, which nobody really talks about that much. But you know, when you're a woman, and it is mainly
the
women,
broken
rung syndrome. So ladders, you've got a ladder, and you climb in those, and you've got a broken one, and that could be time off for having a baby, it could be caring for an elderly parent or relative. It might be something else that you choose to do, but something that stops you, and menopause. You know, I'm a woman of a certain age, and this isn't relevant for your audience, but at one point it will be for some of them. How do you kind of get over that broken rung? How do you find the confidence to reach for that next rung rather than let it stop you? So it's a little bit of a different analogy than the glass ceiling, and I work really hard with the individuals that I work with to kind of recognise that and help them have their own little kind of golden nugget of self-confidence that takes them through what will be tough days. You know, even when you're starting out, you get tough days. When you get to the top, you get tough days. It's no different. And kind of my ex-husband, right, he's never wanted to be anything other than what he does, which, you know, he drives for, I won't say the company. He's really happy. And I've always said, why do you not want to? Because you could. He's got the ability. Oh, I don't want the responsibility. I don't want this. You don't work any harder, really, at this level. It's just a little bit different, you know, but people have this kind of thought in their head that it's going to be really difficult and you're never going to, and you don't have all the answers. It's the imposter syndrome. I think I've helped people overcome the imposter syndrome, and that's probably part of my little superpower that somebody gave to me when I was probably about 11, 12 years old.
Wow.
That makes sense?
You're passing it on, aren't you?
Yeah, pay it forward. I love pay it forward. Yeah.
And I can see you generally care about people.
What's better though? What is better?
You know what also I noticed? You're sitting down like you're at a pub.
Yeah, you see, it's the leaning forward.
And at the start of the conversation, you was like this. And then as we've gone along,
all about posture.
It's all about the posture. And I also did this. I've started to go closer to the table on purpose.
I'm mirroring me. Yeah.
Because it's safe space, isn't it? My final question. Are you ready for it?
Go on.
Duvet flip. What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet? What's getting you keep on turning up to the progress group, turning up to the family, turning up to the friend, the posh friend that you got in Reading? Like, what it keeps...
He lives in Sheffield.
Sheffield, but, you know. But what it keeps getting you turning up and flipping the duvet?
It is about making that difference. It is about kind of, you know, from... throughout my career, you know, walking into a supermarket where I've had somebody tap me on the shoulder and go, "You're right, Jayne," and it's somebody that I put in an apprenticeship at 16 and he's now an area manager. It is about the kind of turning up to an awards evening for a young man when I was at a college who was in danger of being suspended because he brought a fake gun into school. Silly, into college, silly boy. But he could have gone and, and he won Student of the Year the next year. It is about those life-changing moments that I am so lucky. I mean, I think that the only thing as a CEO is you get a little bit further away. You don't see them on a daily basis. You have to make the effort to go and see them. And my team are really good at bringing them to me. So that makes me want to get out of it. But what am I going to discover today? That makes me flip my duvet. And then the kind of the other thing is my dog. Because actually, if I didn't get out of bed and walk her, my life would be
all trouble goes loose, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever flipped the duvet but not realised why you're doing it in your life and in your career?
Probably when I decided to come back from Ibiza. I've had enough fun. It's time to get real again now. Yeah.
Well, Jayne, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for spending some time with us on the show.
Thank you.
For sharing your career journey. Lots of stories in there, which was fantastic to hear. Golden nuggets and learnings that we're going to... this is just going to be such a fantastic episode. I could just tell it. Wait until you see the edit. It's going to be good. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Jack. You've made it a pleasure. Thank you very much.